This episode, reducing clutter to increase productivity. Well, John and I are extremely organized in our businesses, and clutter is one of the things that really takes away from our ability to perform our services effectively. So, we decided to do some tips and tricks on staying organized and reducing clutter.
Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros.
Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled Reducing Clutter to Increase Your Productivity. To help me explain, here's my cheerful old buddy and old friend, Johnny. Johnny, what's been going on in Atlanta? I'm still in Gustavus.
Yeah, I know you're north of our 51st state.
Actually, slightly east, but or west. Excuse me, slightly west. Well, and above too. I shouldn't say that, but anyway, yeah.
It's been raining, still raining like crazy, man. I'm telling you. I heard this morning that it was, I think the wettest that we've last year. They say it was as wet. I just don't remember. Man, this has just been dragging on and on and on, week over week. So hopefully this all ends, because I got some outdoor work to do.
We have finally had a couple of days of nice weather here in Gustavus, and I got to tell you, when the sun came out, it was like, whoa! I saw the other day, so for the first time since I've been here, I saw the moon. and you think, oh, that's not a big deal. Well, number one, we only have 3 or 4 hours of sunlight or moonlight, potential darkness. Let's just put it as darkness,
right?
Because we're on like a 17-hour day right now. And then it's been so cloudy that, of course, we haven't seen the moon. So I woke up, I always get up. I'm still somewhat on Atlanta time. So I get up and it's still dark out. And so the other morning I look out and I'm like, holy smokes, man, look at that. There's the moon. I was like, wow, it's gorgeous. Really hangs low in the sky. It's very different from what, we're traditionally used to.
Yeah. So we haven't even hit the solstice yet, right? As of this recording.
No. Yeah. June 21. So we're recording this mid-June here of 2025. And so, we're coming up on the longest day here. And what the hell's probably a couple
weeks.
Days, about 5 days, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, not even weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
Days.
Yeah.
So anyway, kind of interesting. Not a whole lot of going on in Gustavus. Have not worked on the sauna hardly at all, really at all. I got to just giving you an update. Otherwise we'd be doing shows, but we've been busy staining. And so finally in these past few days, we've gotten all the stain on the lumber, and which is kind of a massive job in and of itself, but we got the stain on. So this week we should be framing, I'm hoping. Be that as it may, we should get to framing. So it would be a good thing to do that. And it's going to be a beautiful piece when we get it done. It really is.
Yeah. Cause you gotta, as you were saying earlier, you gotta get all that wood prepped and stained, because it rains so much. It's so wet up there. You got to really protect all that before you even start to build it.
Yeah. It's very advantageous. You can do it after fact, but boy, it's really nice to have it on. We'll probably end up putting a layer of stain on it once you get it up.
Yeah, of course, but you got to protect what you can before you
protect what we can. Yep, we can, because it's just really it. So this is part of the Tongass. It's called the Tongass, and the Tongass is the largest rainforest in the world, and it's actually between here and Canada and down the peninsula of Juneau and what's called Southeast Alaska, but it extends out. So look that up. It's really fascinating. Produces more oxygen than any other place in the world. The little facts I've learned since I've been
there.
Here.
You go. Wow.
So kind of an interesting thing. You think of rainforest, you don't think of Southeast Alaska, but Southeast Alaska is a huge rainforest, huge. So, and very little influence. I shouldn't say little influence by man, but not a lot of logging operations, not a lot of anything like that, because it's so remote. I actually got the other day, there's a trip we do, a fishing trip that we do that's over to a place called Mud Bay. But anyway, there is old growth forest there, and it is pristine old growth forest. Dude, the trees are immense. I mean, huge. And the glacier never got there, which is kind of interesting too. So these trees are, they're old. There's some 500-year-old trees in there. So
wow.
It's pretty cool.
Now, what kind of trees are those?
They're spruce. They're spruce
trees.
and hemlock.
Wow.
They are freaking massive, dude. I mean, massive. And getting in that forest, forget it. one thing here, going through the forest is virtually, I need to take some, you know what, I'm going to take some pictures. I'm going to actually be out there later today. Going through the forest here, it is so thick. It's like you cannot, Georgia's bad, right? Because of all the brush that's up underneath. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's
crazy. You need to take some videos of that.
I will take some videos, because now that I think about it, I need to do that. It's just like, wow. And anyway, with that, let's get to the topic.
All right, let's get to it, man. Let's clean this up, this clutter.
Let's clean up this clutter. So I'm going to vent a little bit. I've come into an organization that it has had multiple people running it, and it's been honestly, it's just a disorganized mess. I can't find anything, including screwdrivers, tools, and then when I find them, I find 4, 5, 6 of them. Right? It's like I find one here, I find one over there, I find one in the next place. We did the first aid kits yesterday. We found, Johnny, this place has been in existence since 1996. We found expired drugs that were dated 1996. So this is the inspiration for this show. And part of it, and you and I, we do this on a regular basis. All these tips you and I do on a regular basis in our handyman business, because we're just single operators, right? This is critically important if you have multiple people working, because wow, it just gets away from you. So, it gets away from you because you got multiple people working in the thing and taking stuff and not putting it back and so forth and so on. So I'm going to let you start. Tell me, do we have any ideas of what the value of organization and decluttering is? I know, give me your impressions on what that is.
Well, for me, it's a lot of times, and I'll tell you in a few minutes what I've done to and there's a tip coming up here that some of you guys might want to try. But why I've done what I did was because I was double inventorying stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or buying stuff, not just to inventory, but just to have, just tools and things that I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I buy that before and I didn't know where it was? So there's that. And then there's the time factor. So when you really want something, and it's the time and the frustration it takes to go and find some stuff. And, and when we get into this, I'll explain what I did, but, that's what I see. That's what really bugs me about this whole thing. So it's just kind of our monikers, time, money, and aggravation.
Time, money,
the whole thing, whole thing, all rolled up into one.
Yeah, and that is exactly what I'm dealing with. A lot of the aggravation, because we know we like parts. Because of where we are, and I've said this a million times on the show, because we're in Gustavus, Alaska, there's no Home Depot. Well, the Home Depot's in Juneau. Guess what? That's a 5-hour boat trip or a 15-minute air trip or whatever, but it isn't close. You just don't run down to Home Depot to buy, a nut, bolt, washer, screw, whatever. So we're just I'm trying to find this stuff, and it's here, but good God, trying to find it is virtually impossible. So we're working on that system too. We actually bought we didn't buy, but a guy gave us a 20-foot container box, and we're outfitting that with shelving and doing all that kind of thing, just to
that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, here it's a way of life, right? So it's just a thing. So anyway, yeah. So I concur, right? I mean, I concur with everything you said, and it's really the aggravation that's bothering me. Telling a story, I fixed a sink yesterday. I was looking for the little flat washers, and the handyman that's here knew we had them, and the owner knew we had them, and I figured you probably have them, the little flat washers.
Yeah.
3 weeks, Johnny. I've been looking for those buggers for 3 weeks. And yesterday I was actually working on the bench, not thinking about doing the sink. And lo and behold, I look up and they're right there in front of my eyes.
It's always the obvious, right? They're hiding in the obvious spots.
and the other handyman said, "Oh, I know they're right over here somewhere." And he looked right at them and went by them, because they're just, they're small and so forth and so on. And anyway, long story short, I told everybody I had a vision, and it came to me in a vision, and here they are. And I fixed it, after weeks, because we had a sink leak that was bad. It was really, it was drip, 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 drip. It was that fast. Unfortunately, we don't pay for water here, but we do pay for, or we don't pay for it, but we do have septic. So, it doesn't help. Anyway, with that, these are some of the keys. So I do so let's just talk an organizational system, because decluttering and organization go hand in hand, right? And when we talk about decluttering, my opinions are you're getting rid of stuff that you just don't need, or that's junk, whatever, however you
Well,
want to phrase it.
that's what when you started out with, or is expired.
Yeah, is it clutter, basically? Right?
Yeah. So is it taking up space? Is it worthless?
Right.
What I have found, right, and this is the thing that happens with silicone. It goes bad, even though you can still apply it. It has a tendency that doesn't dry anymore.
Yep.
And it's a real mess, man. And when you look at the silicone tube, they'll have the expiration dates on there. And take heed on that. Because you're going to spend a lot of time putting down silicone, or caulking it or whatever you're going to do with it, and it won't dry.
Yep.
And then you got a mess on your hands, and you got to clean it all up. Go out and buy yourself a new tube and come back. So you're spot on with anything that's expired, and you have to take all that stuff into account. But
yeah, yep. So I work on this premise of everything in its place and a place for everything, right?
Yep.
So the key to that is however you want to do it. And it's the way that I do it is, and you probably do it in a very similar way. The things that you use a lot are in your range of vision, right? So for me, nuts and bolts, like drywall screws and things like that, I have them in a place where I can access them. I'm in my truck. They hang on a shoe hanger on the back door of my truck. I open my door and they're right there on the right-hand side. Why? I use them all the time, as compared to, for example, my SDS drill, which I use to drill concrete. And John, you've used it, but it's in a bottom box in my truck, but it's in a bottom box that I rarely want to pull all the boxes out to get to it. But I know where it is because I know when I need it, I know it's there, right? And so one of those things is just, for me, it's the stuff that you use all the time you want to have in a place where you know where it is, that's easily accessible. So don't take your drywall screws and put them in the bottom box on the bottom of your stack of piles. That's not a good idea if you use them all the time, because I use them for more than just drywall. I use them for fastening things and things like that. Anyway, be that as it may, that's one of the things that I think is a great tip, right? Have some kind of system, be it boxes, be it shelving, be it whatever, and have this at your house, have this or wherever your storage is, however you do this, have this stuff in an organizational thing. So that's one way, is commonly used items, organized by commonly used items. I say it here because, for example, we have some critical items to the facility. They're mostly like water pumps. We have a whole commercial water system here, and so there's a lot of parts, and we're just going to call it. And because we can't get parts, and because this stuff is critical, we have spares of almost everything. Now, on a water pump, these are specialized water pumps, commercial Baldor pumps or Baldor motors and things they're expensive. But when it goes down, you got to be able to swap it out, and you got to be able to do it fast, because when 24 rooms don't get hot water, guests get a little upset, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? Makes sense. But it also doesn't need to be sitting on the bench top in the shop, right? Because they get used once every, 20 years. It's just not a high priority item.
And that's the other thing, if you don't stay organized, things will get lost, because you're going to start finding yourself moving things around just to get to other things. And then, and then you're, then you're like, well, if you don't have a whole lot of inventory, you can keep it in your mind. But once things get to a certain point, you need to understand that, and you touch something, it's no longer in your mind's eye anymore where it was.
Correct. Yes. And the smaller things are, the worse it is.
That's right.
The bigger things are easy. Like these pumps are rather large.
Yeah.
So you can see them, and you know what they are.
But it also becomes damaged too. Could be damaged, if they're not properly stored.
We're getting to that.
Yeah.
We're getting to that. That's coming, right? There's another tip here coming on this stuff. So, with that, we've moved those out into shelving out in the Connex, and they're organized. So all the pumps motors are together, right? So that's the second part. So uncommon use, but we've put them all together. So if we need a pump, we now walk out there, we go to the, not that it matters, but we go to the far back corner shelf and all the pumps are right there and you can see them. The labels are out so that you can actually see them, because that labeling is one of those next tips, right? And this is where I was going with what you were just saying, right? Put a label on it. And is it good or is it bad, right? If you take, because here, nothing gets thrown away because you might be able to salvage something off of it, anything.
Well,
but what I found,
I was going to say, it goes back to what you were saying. You're out in the middle of nowhere, right? And you've got you've got this whole thing, that the concept of, I can't get it when I need it. It takes me a while to get it. It's not like we're here and it's like, I'll just go to Amazon and get one tomorrow.
No.
Or I'll run down to Home Depot and get one this afternoon.
Yeah. Amazon is 10 days, right? Yeah. On the outside edge, 10 days, right? So no, there's no quick, the quickest way, and it's not even that quick. You can fly over to Juneau, which is expensive. You can, hope, you call ahead obviously, but hope somebody's got it in stock. And it's a hope, because Juneau, everything's brought in by boat anyway. So it's the same thing. And then, hope they've got it and you can get back. And it's not a good situation. It's just, it's a situation. It is what it is. We live on an island, and just is what it is. So anyway, but these processes work anywhere. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. You want to do that. And then also, I group things by category type. So plumbing goes together, electrical goes together, painting goes together, all the other stuff, whatever, right? But if you keep it in a place, you always go, oh, I'll look in the, if I need a wire nut, I'm going to look in the electrical section, right? Because that's where you keep it. At least that's how I think about it. You keep electrical with the electrical stuff, right? There's some crossover, paintings like caulk and stuff that kind of has multiple uses. You might have some things, but do it however works for you. But figure it out, But also, if you take something off and it's like, for example, say it's a motor and it's bad, just say it needs to be rewound or something. Take a piece of blue tape, take a wire tag, take something that you can attach to the motor or attach to the piece, and write on it and say what's your assessment on it is. Is it, did you burn the motor up? Is it a bad contact? Is it a brush or whatever you think it is, right? Doesn't even matter. Is any part of it salvageable? And then you have to assess, is any part of it salvageable at all, right? Is it salvageable at all? If it's not salvageable, do yourself a favor, get rid of it, or mark on it for disposal. Here we mark on it for disposal because we just don't throw things out. They've got to be taken off the island. But these are little tips that matter. I mean, this will save you huge amounts of time, money, and aggravation all the way around.
Yeah.
In storage, use your vertical space, right? Make sure you put shelving up because, and this is my tip on shelving, Johnny. I think you probably do the same thing. The things you use all the time need to be in the middle shelves at eye level, right? Kind of right in the middle where you can see them regularly. The things you don't use very often, they go high or low depending on weight. If it's really heavy, you put it on the bottom shelf. If it's light, you put it on the top shelf. But the stuff you use, twice a year, put it up on the upper shelves. You don't need it right there in front of you. Right?
I mean, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to store it, and I get that, but you just don't need it. You don't need it all the time, or put it in another place. Like at my house, now I have my shed, and the stuff that I don't use a lot goes upstairs because I don't use it a lot, but I know where it is. It's in a shelf upstairs, so it's there. We can get at it.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I'd say is that, folks, if you're, it's always harder after you've established a bunch of inventory to start to organize it. So when you start off, keep these tips in mind. I mean, I use rolls of blue tape marking everything, and I use those big tubs. They're cheap to buy,
Yep.
And I write all over those things what it is,
I use and a lot. I recycle.
Do the same. Excuse me, but I do this. I do the same thing, Larry, that you do. I got a plumbing box or boxes. I got electrical boxes. I've got painting boxes. I have, my wallboard go-to box that has everything in there to make repairs and everything else. But everything is together So if I have to cross, just like you, if I have to cross, do anything, I know all the wire nuts are with the electrical. I know, all the paintbrushes are over here. I got a stain box, all that stuff with the paint. And guess what else? It's a little anal on that part, but I got it alphabetized. so anyway.
I don't go that far.
Yeah,
I don't go that
far. But I don't have as much stuff, that that neat, but some of the stuff, so that all my boxes are kind of in an alphabetical type of thing. So at least I can go down the list and in the shelves and see, I've got all my tools over here.
You brought up a really good point on the kits, right? So I call it a kit, right? You have your drywall kit, which is a group of it's the tools and it's the materials and it's the stuff you need to do a very I'm going to say a pretty small drywall repair, right? Like in handymaning, if you got to go fix a hole, right, in a wall, you've got all that in a kit. Why do you do that? I'm asking because I know the answer, but why?
That's because I swap things out in my car, right? So I've got a wallboard job, and it's going to be, it's not going to be all that big, and I already have, the wallboard, 45-minute and 20-minute mud in this box with everything else. So all I got to do is grab it and go.
Grab it and go.
I don't even have to think about it.
Don't even think about it, right? Take that that's mental clutter. We've not talked about mental clutter, but you have to reduce the mental clutter. You don't have to think about it because it's all in there, right?
That's
exactly
right.
Grab that box and go, and away you go, and you're good. And Johnny, what's the key to that? So on the end of the job, what do?
I clean it all up, and I put, I'll put it all back together again. And I'll
all back together.
And I'll refill. What I do, and I might have said this before, I'm sure I have in the past. I've got big bags of drywall mud or buckets of the finishing mud, whatever it might be, for bigger jobs. But for smaller jobs, I carry about I think it's 2 or 3 milk cartons that I dry out real good. But I fill them with, and I label them 45-minute mud, 20-minute mud, and I got them in that box. They're half-gallon milk containers. Okay, so I got enough to do those type of smaller jobs, and I just grab it and go, and then I clean up everything. I put it
with the job, and you refill it, right?
That's what I was just getting to. Yeah. I put it all back together, and I top it all off again, and I'm ready to grab and go again, because you know what?
You do it every time, right?
Exactly. Now I don't drive around with everything. Because I can't, I don't want to. It's just so easy to do things like that. And I've got my electrical box that's pretty much the same way. And I've got all my electrical tools together. The stud finders, whatever it might be. But it's
we've done a show. We've shown both.
Yeah,
our tool belts.
I mean, it's just so.
I use a belt, and it's just grab and go. We know we can do
exactly
about 90% of our repairs can be done out of that. And same, like your electrical box is probably very similar to mine. You got plenty of wire nuts. You got a tester in there. You got a stripper in there, and you got a pair of dikes, right? That because
I got my fish tape.
You got your fish tape. You might have a little wire, but you don't have everything. It's not to wire a house. It's to do a repair. You got an outlet in there. You got a couple switches in there, or whatever. Couple switches, but it's grab and go.
And
you don't think about it. Yeah, you don't.
That's exactly right. And you know what? I've got all my tools, just like an electrician would have. Their belt, their electrician belt, and I've got one too that's got all the tools and everything. So somebody says, "Hey, man, can you hang a fan?" Yep, I can put the fan up, and guess what goes with me? Those specific tools, right? And it's easy. I've got all my stuff together.
Yeah, it's decluttered. The brain is decluttered there. There's no thinking about it. You don't have to make a decision. You don't have to go every single time. You don't have to go, do I need this? Do I need that?
That's especially, boy, I'll tell you, especially for the wallboard work, that I used to go through that anguish. Okay, I need this, and I got to think about that, and I'm like, this is nuts, because it's taken me, 25 minutes just to figure out what I need. What knives do I need? What's this? What that? Do I have the blah, blah, blah? I just I said, just pack it all up in a big box and just go, everything's there for you. So,
And how many times have you lost tools when you do this?
you don't anymore.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
other benefit of it.
Yeah.
You tend not to lose your tools. You might, I mean, I've lost a screwdriver or two where I've either dropped it in a wall or misplaced it or set it up somewhere and didn't restock it. But in general, I haven't lost it for good, meaning I don't have, and then I don't go buy 6 replacements for it, right? Because,
Yeah.
hey, I lost
Yeah.
it, right? That kind of thing. But you tend to not lose your tools. And the other thing is if you have these small kits, you know what's in there. So if you did leave that screwdriver up there and you are doing it on a daily basis, or on a job basis, basically at the job, you're like, hey, where's my screwdriver?
Yeah, I mean, it's just some very specific things though, like this, like the wallboard's a great example. There's very specific things you never kind of use every day, right? But it's all packed together, And I do this. I just did an electrical job, and I just pulled out all my electrical stuff together, which I keep it together, and I'm done. And I know pretty much I got everything with me. And the one thing that bugs me though, that always needs to go with me is my headlamp. And sometimes I forget that kind of pisses me off. But other than that, it's the little quirky things, It's like, God darn it.
I have to kind of tell a story about that. So coming here to Alaska, I was like, so what are the things that are on my truck that I need to think about taking to Alaska? And Johnny came up with 2 things that I knew that they would not have here, right? One was my laser level, because I figured they probably didn't have a laser level, and I was correct. They don't. So I brought my little laser level, just because I want to get things square, right? I mean, it's the easiest way to do it. But the other thing that I brought, 2 other things I brought, I should say, gloves, which always are in my truck, and I don't think about them. But here I'm like, okay, so I have to think about what I'm taking, right? So I brought 2 pairs of gloves because, you need gloves, right? And the other thing were my knee pads. And I never think about my knee pads because I know where they are on the truck. And I actually took them and shipped them to Alaska before I came here because I'm like, and to date, I've used my knee pads quite a lot. And I'm very glad that, because my knees are, my knees are,
man, I'm telling you,
not in good shape. Let's leave it that way.
I guess just going through this little mental exercise we're going through right now about all this declutter, I'd love to know what, from the audience, what we might be missing here, or, what you guys do to take care of this issue. I mean,
there's a million ways to do this stuff. Yeah. There's a million ways to do this stuff. Send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you my trick. And since I've been in the software, I use what any kind of tool that I can that's software related, or these phones now, or computers, right?
Right. Yep.
Well, I have found, I was asking about, I'm thinking about it. I'd love to have like an inventory. I don't have it. I'm not going to pay for a formal inventory tool. But to your point, to these things, for all this inventory. So the boxes, iOS lists. If you do in the reminders, you can create lists, and you can put a box, a list, and then put things underneath there. Okay. So I have a bunch of these boxes in there. And I keep it simple so that I say, that I can say to Siri, put this in this box, in my drywall box, blah, blah. And then what you can do with this trick is that now all you have to do is put in a query into your phone. Do I have what pair of wire strippers? And it'll say, it's in this box.
Oh, that's a cool tip.
So
that's a cool.
So I've been doing, as I've been going through my boxes now, I've been and you can just talk to, these assistants on the phone. I don't want to keep saying the name because everybody's phone will be lighting up, but you can just say, hey, you put this in, add this to the box, and you can just talk to it as you're going through the box. One of the things, here's why I started that. and I try to investigate trying to do this, and it works. But it was a plumbing box.
Oh,
exactly.
Oh.
That box, when I go do a plumbing job, I take that box, but it has so much crap in it that I don't know what I have in it. And it was really starting to frustrate me. And now I'm starting to double up on things, even to the extent of tools that I haven't seen in a while that I know that I bought, but I can't find, but they're hiding somewhere in this box. Well,
wow.
I went through that whole box. I pulled out everything in that box. And as I put it back in the box, I was recording it into my phone under that box, that list. So now I've got all my inventory in that box. Wow. Does that make sense?
That's a great tip. Yeah.
So
that's a
now
great tip.
all I have to do is I say, do I have this
whatever
connector?
Yeah. Yeah.
For plumbing. Boom. I either do or I don't.
Yeah. So you're not wasting any time.
I'm not wasting time. You know what? And on the way to the job, if I have to stop by Home Depot to get it, or, whatever, one of these big box stores, okay. I'm not just doubling up on stuff.
Boy, that's a good tip. That's a really good one. We were going to talk about inventory just in general, right? So, that you're working on what I call a PAR system, right? So in your system, you've basically got, I'm going to use your drywall. You have a 20-pound bag of 45-minute mud, right? And you pour it out, and as you're pouring it out, you're using it. When you get down to probably like a quarter of a bag, you talk to your phone and you say, hey, on my Home Depot list, put in a 20-pound bag of 20-minute.
So it's it's an order. I mean, that's an order point system, so you get reorder points. So yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So that's the other nice thing. So since you bring that up, that's the other nice thing about using these technologies that everybody has in their pocket, is that, there's workarounds to make this stuff happen. So as you're going through there, which is a perfect example of, I have a big box store list that I need to buy. Right. Here's
and I do too.
Yes. And you're exactly
right. Added to it very regularly because you run out of, hey, I ran out of 3-inch screws, okay. Or not that I've run out, but I'm getting low on 3-inch screws, need to buy 3-inch screws. And financially, that makes great sense, right? Because you don't have to tie it, you don't buy 2 35-pound boxes of 3-inch screws, because it's going to take you 2 years to use those up. But when you get down to, a certain level in that bucket, it's like, yeah, better buy another bucket just to have it, right? And then that way you don't ever run out. You don't ever get to that point where you're like, oh my God, I'm out of X, right? And you're like, the job stops because you got to run to the store and get it. And I laughed, Johnny. I made a great grimace when you talked about plumbing. The only place where this really doesn't work is plumbing, because nothing's standardized in plumbing. It drives me crazy, but that's a whole different issue. But it's better if you do have some kind of system in plumbing, because there's so many different parts, and it's truly insane in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, no, I'm just we've got a list of things we're talking about here. Just moving on, again, labeling things, right? So Johnny already talked about using blue tape. Use it all the time. You just put notes on it. I use a lot of old peanut butter jars for a lot of my inventory on the truck, because it's mobile, it's portable, and doesn't break. Oh, by the way, we don't want glass because it doesn't break. But I label it. Take blue tape, right on there what it is. These are 3-inch drywall screws. Or you just look through it and say, oh, those are 3-inch drywall screws. Those work really, really well. This came up out of our stuff around here. We're getting rid of paper, right? And using your technology idea, John, things like old manuals and stuff, you know what? Get rid of that. If it's not online, and some things aren't online, if it's a specialized thing, whatever. I have a little plan that's a hand-drawn plan for this sauna that we're building, right? It's a hand-drawn plan, and it's really quite good. It gives me a basic idea of what we're going to use. I kept needing to reference it. Finally, I just took a picture of it. So now it's in my phone. So now I'm out on the job site. There it is. Now we saved the original because it was a one-off, right? I can't look it up online, but I do have it on my phone now. So I don't need the piece of paper out in the weather, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's true with like your old you buy something, you get a manual, throw the damn thing away. It's online. If you want the manual,
it is
look
true.
it up. folks,
Yeah, it
right?
is true.
Don't take up space with this essentially clutter and trash. It'll drive you nuts. You're like,
right.
what am I keeping this for?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
there's so
I
much here
never
to
even
talk
looked at.
talk
Yeah,
about. Because every tool that I buy that requires a manual electric tool or whatever, I take a picture of the manual and I store it in a specific spot that I can get to on my phone or in the cloud or whatever. So I'm on the job. That way I don't carry the manual with me. I don't even care. I always
yeah.
have it with, it's always available. So you guys might
Just
want to
get
think about
rid of
that
it.
if you haven't done this trick that Larry's talking about already. Just get everything online if you can.
Yeah, not even necessarily online. Just use the photo. I am bad about taking pictures, right? I mean, I'll be straight away honest. I'm working on getting lots and lots of pictures because I need to. But I was just out on this site and I'm like, I've got this piece of paper and it starts raining. And of course, then I got to
Yeah.
cover the paper up, and da 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 da. And I'm like,
Yeah, the
and
hell with
somebody said
that.
to me, why don't you just, yeah, somebody said to me, why don't you just take a picture of it? I
Yeah.
was like, oh, duh,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like it was a duh moment. I'm just like, oh, took a picture of it, filed the piece of paper away in the office where we need it. And I don't want to do away with it. This particular one, because again, it's a handwritten one. But I was just like, now it's in my phone. And I'm like, okay. And I reference it all the time.
I do
All
this
the
all the time, man. I honestly do. And I've got a file system that I use and I store all those pictures in the same space because I don't want to dig through my pictures.
well, same thing.
I
You
actually
have that
save
in
them
your
to
ticket.
a spot so I know. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got if I buy an, let's say my washer and dryer, guess where those manuals
Yeah.
are? those are in an electronic file. They're in a
In your
soft copy.
section.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to a hard copy to everything I've got is that's just that was my job, for 33 years. So this is
Right.
helping people do this. So I'm like, I'm
Right.
going to I need to be doing this too.
I mean, honestly, we're going through some files yesterday. We found a owner's manual, not an owner's manual, an operator's manual for a vehicle that's been in the junkyard for 15 years. I was
Yeah.
just like, what is I had never even seen it. I'm like, what is this? And Dave's like, we haven't had that for 15 years. I said, well, then I guess it's going in the trash. Is there any reason it doesn't need to go in the trash? And he's like, no, get rid of it. I was like, perfect,
Yeah.
but just took up a file, a binder. We
And,
saved the binder.
and I
But
think we've talked about this before. All this stuff, time goes very quick.
yeah,
So
boy.
the point is that before you know it, 15 years goes by pretty quick. At least,
It,
as old as I am, I wish it would slow down, but it's not. It's getting faster. But before you know it, you've got junk everywhere. All this clutter.
you've got junk everywhere, and it's not necessarily junk. It was valuable at one time, but
Yeah, it's
things
just
have changed.
it's expired stuff that you
And
don't need anymore.
you just don't need it. And
Yeah,
it's clutter. It literally takes up space. It's visually annoying. It's mentally annoying. It's all that stuff. You get rid of all the clutter, you do away with a huge amount of aggravation, for lack of a better word. All right, we're going to move on. Adopting the 5S method. I picked this one up off the internet. I thought this was pretty good. 5S's, there's are all S. Sort, remove unnecessary items from your workspace or vehicle. We talked about that. Set in order, arrange your tools and materials for easy access, right? So set. Shine, clean your workspace up on a regular basis. You clean your tools, clean your things. There's other advantages we'll talk about with this stuff. Standardize, right? Create a routine in both mentally and create a routine for cleaning and for all kinds of things, but standardize your items too. Don't carry a whole bunch of different items to do the same job. There's no reason. We talk about a lot on this show. John and I have done a lot of shows on buying tools that have multi-use, such as a vibrating, an oscillating saw, right? It's got a million different uses. We've talked about 4-inch grinders and the whole number of things you can do with a 4-inch grinder that are not necessarily just grinding, right? There's cutting, there's cleaning, there's this, there's that. These things allow you to make better use of your time, your money, and your aggravation because they do multiple jobs, but they're standardized, right? These are all standardized things. They're all standardized. We use the same types of tools because they use the same batteries and they operate in the same way. Standardized. It's created weekly decluttering. Just do it. And then sustain, stick with the habits and maintain this clutter-free operation. So it's 5S's, right? And we're just going over again. It's sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain, right? trust me, folks, it'll help like tremendously.
Yeah.
Johnny and I do it without thinking. We don't even think about
I mean,
it.
I just pulled out my stuff out of a couple of boxes, like I said, while I was putting it I just cleaned up everything.
Yep.
And boom, man, I just try to keep up with it. I'll tell you, it's tough. The sustain thing, it's tough to keep. It's tough to keep up. Keep this up because you're busy. Everybody's busy. But
take 5 minutes every day on your job site and clean it up. Right? We talked about it. So the other advantage, John, what's the other advantage? You do this in front of customers, and what happens?
Well, it's a professional. You're very professional. You have clean tools. You you're presenting yourself as knowing what you're doing, and you're cleaning up the site. I mean, if you're talking about cleaning up a site or whatever, that goes without saying, at least at this point in my short handyman career.
Well, I understand that. The point is that it makes an impression on the customer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's positive, right? Yeah, it's a very positive. Yeah, that's what I said. You're professional. It's just they're dealing with people that know what they're doing. That's
correct.
That's just what it. I've had compliments or not compliments as much as comments of that. Yeah,
and people pay attention.
Yeah, they do. They do. Wow, God, you're organized.
And as a result, what does that get you? More work.
Yeah, for sure.
They're more likely to refer you if you do these things.
Larry, do we got anything? Do we got anything else that on this topic? I'm looking through here. What else?
I can go on for hours, but we're not going to.
I was going to say. We can pick this up at as we get some better tips. I will say, I'm going to throw this out again, folks. If you've got some other tips or tricks that you've got out there that to declutter, man, I would love to. Hear them.
Yes, please. We really would, and we'll post. We'll not post them. We'll do another show with all your tips. You got a hack for something? Let us know.
Yeah,
we are all over that.
Because I'd love to adopt it.
Yeah, that's why. That's exactly it, right?
We're all in this together, man.
We'll put it into action. This will become an action point for us, is what it is. And so, yeah, we're into it. It's because man, I'm all, when we say save time, money, and aggravation, we are all over that. That is not a catchphrase. That's a reality in our world. So, all right, John, do you spend more time in the spaceship lately than I? I have not seen one here. I'm still looking for Bigfoot, by the way. I saw a brown bear.
Well, you got the big rainforest up there, so
I know. I keep waiting, right? Yeah. So anyway,
they're lurking.
Do the aliens have it well organized? Do they have their probes in all the right places and things like that? Just asking.
Yeah, you ever been in that's when they tell you, hey, come on in, close the hatch. We got to get after it.
I'm just letting it alone right now. All I can say is for you, Johnny, Dr. Novotny comes to mind. I don't understand why I mentioned anyway, folks, with that, we want to thank you for listening. Johnny, take her home. I'm not even going to go
all right, folks. Hey, listen, please send us any details you got of how you're taking care of all your clutter and all your stuff and staying organized. We'd love to hear it. And we will see you next week on the Handyman Pros radio show.